Michael Boyle's StrengthCoach.com presents the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. PerformBetter.com.
All right, guys, welcome to another special episode of the Strength Coach Podcast with Gabriele, founder of Gabriele Fitness Performance, Fitness Business University, KISS Marketing, author of 720 books. Vince, thanks for doing this, bud.
What's up?
It's good to see
It's great to see you. I've missed you.
I know we haven't done this in a while, and I will say though, I've been seeing you a lot where I wasn't expecting to see you on social media. Doing it right too. Looks like you got somebody following you around or recording whatever. You know, I know you do a million masterminds and group stuff, and you got a guy or gal following you around with some recording and doing it. But talk to me about the social media push right now. You've been spending a little more time on there. Let's go where and why, because you have been somebody who's in the past. We've even had episodes on. Look, you don't need to do, and you weren't really on social media. So what's going on?
Yeah, I, spent the first, 5 to 7 years in this business, just kind of doing seminars and workshops and, running ads and writing books and stuff like that. And I've never been one for social media, like to get, I honestly, I'm not a video guy either, which I should be. I'm good talking like on the camera and stuff like this, but like when you get me in front of video, it's like a little harder for me. So I've always shied away from it for some reason. So part of it was, I've talked about the marketing glove, right? And you want to have multiple things that you're doing to generate leads. And we've had a really, really great year in terms of the marketing that we're doing. The small group book absolutely crushed it. And our podcast is going really well. Like everything is clicking on all cylinders. And I was just like, I knew that there are so many of my market on Instagram, like gym owners are on Instagram. And it's just like,
Yeah.
it kind of is violating my own rule of what is the place where your group gathers. And if your group gathers there, you should be there. And, I it took me a while to be able to do it, but um, I hired a guy, a company called Haas Media, and the two brothers, Owner and Okan, and they pretty much come to my gym once a week, and they film me doing my podcasts, and they film me doing the Wednesday calls. And what they do is they take them and they make me sound smart, right? They take the clips, they cut them up, and they edit everything. And it's like they put the music to it, they put videos to it, they put words to it in terms of the transcriptions and all that. And it's been really great working with them because honestly, it's been almost no extra work for me. Obviously, I'm paying money for it, a good chunk of money, but it's all stuff I would be doing anyway. I would have been recording these podcasts. I would have been doing these Wednesday calls. And now I'm doing it and I'm getting twofold. I'm not just getting the job done when it's getting done. That is now being captured and then being reproduced another way, which is a really important lesson. It's called unused capacity. And business owners need to look at and say, where is my unused capacity? Where do I have capacity? Well, I had capacity in that I'm doing these podcasts and I could very easily have someone film it and then cut the pieces up and put them out on social. That wasn't happening before. And the only difference is I now have someone actually doing that. So I think it's a great lesson in, you're already doing stuff. Like an example could be writing an email. Like if you write to your email list, you should take that email and put it on your website, on a blog. You can take that same email and you can put it in ChatGPT and say, take this email and turn it into a Facebook post. Take that same email and put it into an Instagram post. You know what I'm saying? So it's like this leverageable asset that you create. You create something once, and then you have the ability to recreate that thing. And then there's so much more juice that you can squeeze out of that one thing that you did.
Love that. Love that. And I think a lot of people listening, there's a lot to this that to unpack also because I was at Allie Gilbert's Silverback Summit this weekend and she had her social media team, video guys there, and they presented and they talked all about this. And I loved it because he was basically saying, look, you just need your phone. I don't, you don't need, this is just for Instagram and TikTok. You don't need the thumbnails. You just you do need captions are always great, but it doesn't mean you don't always need to be, you don't need the hashtags. You don't need to worry about any of that stuff. You just need to post one a day. And he gave, some ideas about topics and whatever. The, what I liked about what he was saying was, he was making it as easy as possible. Even though he has an agency, he's like, a lot of you people can't afford my agency anyway. But he said, you can do this on your own. There's a certain amount of time involved. Can you just, I want to segue that into a question about, you're talking to all these gym owners. They're going to see that you have these people following you, and now you're all of a sudden you're on social. Is there kind of a threshold, like a number or that you want to see your the people in your mentorship group that you're making, or to in order to start to maybe possibly invest in doing something like this and having a team that does it for you?
I don't necessarily think I've ever really suggested them to do what I'm doing. Um, the difference is that my market is worldwide, right? I have customers all over the world, and there's an infinite amount of people that I'm marketing to. Whereas a gym, they only have a much smaller pocket of people. And so I'm not saying that they shouldn't be posting on Instagram and doing videos and doing things like that. I definitely don't think they need to spend the kind of money I'm spending to have someone edit these. I think your guy is right. Like hold your phone up and talk into the phone, and then put it out there. So I do think there's other things that people should be doing to spend their money on before all of a sudden you have this influencer. I think some people go the other way with they try to become an influencer in their gym. And I see a bunch of people doing it and they're trying to, and they're like trying to get people to their gym, but then they start kind of talking to entrepreneurs at the same time. And I think it's just like you got to stay in your lane. You got to remember what you're trying to do. Like, what is the goal? Like, my goal is to help as many gym owners as I possibly can all over the world. But I never did this shit when I was running my gym. And my gym was show up, try to help as many people in my community as I possibly can. Right. And so I think that, yes, you should be trying to get famous locally. Right. Um, and there's many ways to do that. Social media is one way to do it, but shoot, what about booking a seminar and having a workshop at your gym and getting 50 people from your community to come to your gym physically and learn about like that's the best thing to do, honestly. Right? It's more work and stuff like that. And again, that's like it is, yeah, that's what everyone's doing right now. Everyone's on Instagram. Like, and I'll tell you this, like I wouldn't be doing it personally if I had to like step in front of the camera and film videos all day. I wouldn't do it. I would take my losses. I would just be like, I ain't doing that. Right? But the fact that they can just show up and film me and I'm already doing it, like that was like, okay, I'll do that. I can do that. So
Yeah,
I'm not saying they should. They 100% should be doing stuff on social, but they got to realize what is the point of being on social? What is the point of, you know, getting more followers? Well, if you get a lot of followers, that's great, but are you following up with the followers? And most people are not. And then I'm like, what the hell's the point? Yeah, you got a lot of followers, great. Well, if they're local, why wouldn't you message them? Right? And message them and message your followers. And I think that's really like, what are you trying to do? Get more clients to my gym. And I think people miss that point. They think get more followers, build my brand, build my brand. No, you're trying to get new customers. And so
absolutely.
use your social media as a way to get, so you get new people that like your stuff, they follow your story or whatever that is. Reach out to them,
Yeah,
send them a message and just be like, hey, thanks for following. Do you live in
it's
the area? Do you live in Berkeley Heights? Yes. Awesome. Have you ever worked out with a trainer before? Like whatever, right? Like reach out to him and talk to him. Like that's what you're trying to
Yeah.
do. You're trying to grow your, again, speaking to our market, right? Our market of
Yeah.
gym owners on a local level. Um, so
Sure.
yes, it's been a very valuable thing for me to do, but this is not something I'm saying that all gym owners should be doing.
Yeah.
If anything, put out good quality content. Like your guy said, hold your phone in front of your face, do that and do that once. I do think the consistency of it is huge, like once a day.
Yeah.
Like that, and that's the hardest part. That's the hardest part for
Yeah.
people to do. So I have sent an email a day for almost 7 years, and I've done 2 podcasts a week for almost 5 years. And it's the consistency is the thing. That's the juice. The juice is in the consistency. And that's what people got to get used to. So yes, stick a camera in front of your face, film one video a day and put it up there and see what happens. But when you start getting more followers, follow up with the followers.
Yeah, it's so funny because the best coaches, Ali's coach spoke this weekend. There was a couple other business people speaking, and it's funny how it's like being healthy. Eat whole foods, right? Go to sleep early, try not to drink too much alcohol, exercise every day, get your steps in, right? Whatever. It was the same thing. It was like know your market, know your avatar, whatever you want to call it, know your person that you're trying to get to. And then serve, serve, serve. That's all. That was a big theme there as well. The best coaches like Michael Hyatt for me, Coach Boyle, like I've always said, Sir Greg Rose, serve, serve, serve. Exactly what you just said. You said this before when we weren't speaking. Also, like know where your clients are. That was one of the things like you were saying that your clients are on, these gym owners are on Instagram. So it is okay. You're going worldwide. And another thing was Ali's coach just did a webinar yesterday on on how to, DM people through Instagram without feeling sleazy or something like that. So to your point,
Yeah.
like, you got to reach out to these people. How do you reach out to them? Make sure you're going out there. And, he showed the numbers, the analytics, and, okay, they're going to, for every 100, maybe 30 are answering. And then they end up with like maybe two people, but still for them, it's a high ticket. So, but I love what you were just talking about. I think I love that you see the consistent theme with all the best coaches. Um, Vince, speaking of health, let's talk about. I was asking you earlier too. We're talking about both of our health because you accused me of having a midlife crisis. But I wanted to. I'm 57, but all right, midlife is over now.
Yeah, that is true.
I
I
got
did my thing. I was like, wow, I'm past midlife. Jesus.
I got the vet 17 years ago. um, but you were last couple of years, you've been really doing some great work with, your health and like 75 hard. And we've talked about like the extensions of that and then other things that you've been doing, good stuff. Um, and you're telling me, I ruck a lot.
Yeah.
I have Go Ruck shirt on right now, as a matter of
Nice.
fact. Um, uh, you did it great. I want you to talk about this because I think when we had Joe Hashi on, and that was kind of the idea with Joe, is we were talking about, just getting out there and doing certain things and making sure you said it. You've told some of your coaching clients, like, you're an adult, you're a grown ass adult, you own a gym, get in shape. There's no excuse. So talk to us about what you did recently. I love it.
Yeah. So I read the book The Comfort Crisis a couple years ago. Michael Easter, I think is the name, right?
Michael Easter. Yeah, it's
Michael
Michael
Easter.
Easter. Yep.
And I learned of a term called the Misogi from that book. And then obviously Jesse Itzler is someone that I follow a lot that talks about it a lot. But the Misogi is, yeah, pick one thing a year that kind of defines your year. And the thing's got to be like really hard and something that is, they say some type of a 50% chance of failure, right? So something that's got to be really, really challenging. And so when I read that, I was like, that is a really great way to live your life, right? To do that once a year. And I'm thinking like, if you were to ask me what I did in 2010, I'd be like, I have no idea, right? But if you ask me what I did in 2023, I'd be like, oh yeah, I wrote a book for my kids. right? That was my Misogi last year, was writing the kids' book. So it doesn't actually have to be something physical. But I've kind of signed up for a Misogi life going forward. So I have a little bit less than half of my life continuing going forward to accomplish some type of Misogi. And this year it was a physical one, and I signed up early in the year in January. Um, I signed up for this thing called the Green Monster Challenge, which is like a 50-kilometer trail challenge through the backwoods of Pennsylvania. It was like 4 hours away from my house in like the backwoods of Pennsylvania. It was like AKA Nebraska. Like that's where it was. Um, I had all year to prepare and think about it and stuff like that. And it was great. I did it. Joe Hashi and I, we drove out together, stayed the night, in a hotel right before, got up really early, and then he crushed it. He did it in like 8 hours and 10 minutes. I was by myself pretty much the whole time. He kind of got way on front. He's a machine. And one of our coaches from the gym, Chris, did it as well. Both of them did it around 8 hours. I was like 10 hours and 10 minutes, but I'd never done anything. Like I've never run a marathon before. I'd never run. That was like my first time I've ever gotten a bib, like a number. I had never been in a race
Wow.
where I got a number. So it was my first thing. And it's funny, like we're like going, um, and we're getting ready and they're doing like the announcements. I was talking to some guy and he was like, "Oh, have you done this before?" I was like, "No, I've never done this one." He was like, "Have you done any of these?" And I was like, "No, this is my first one." And he looked at me like I was like freaking nuts. He was like, "This is your first one?" Because literally there's like a mile up a hill, like, and not a hill. Like I was legit like, you know, bent in half getting over the hill. It was like pushing a prowler for a mile. That's how
Jeez.
much it was. Like these hills were massive. So it wasn't like running on these nicely groomed trails, and it poured rain the entire time. Poured rain.
No way.
Yeah, and there was some like the uphills were not for me. I don't mind hills. I do train in hills a lot. But the downhills were crushing on my knees and
Worst.
like everything.
Worst.
Like my toenails are still like completely black and blue.
I was to say
Completely.
the feet take a
Vanessa
beating.
Vanessa saw my toes for the first time the other day. She was like, "Is that from the Green Monster? Like that is disgusting." And she's like, uh, but
She's
so yeah, but
repulsed by you.
but yeah, she is. But it was great. I was so glad I did it. And I did a lot of actually like you do rucking, a lot of rucking leading up to it. But I'm not a runner. I've never run a race before. So for me to accomplish something like that was really cool. And it's Misogi life, right? It's just like, all right, 2023 was the book, 2024 was the Green Monster, and now I'm thinking about what I'm going to do for 2025. But it's like, I don't know, it's just a cool keeps your edge, keeps you going, and keeps you moving. So I
Very
had
cool.
fun with it.
Michael always says though, his rule is do something really hard, right? Like you said, 50% chance failure. But don't die. So
Don't
he
die,
wants you to be
right?
on that edge of like, oh man, like you gotta be scared going into it.
Yeah,
And if people don't think that the book is something that you're going to be scared of, when you have to write that thing and you have a certain amount of time, and the writing a book is the worst. Like when you're doing something to the level of like what you did for your kids, where I know your other books were super important, but this book to your kids was like, I remember when you were doing it and when you were talking about it. I mean, your face like lit up. You were so excited about it to
yeah.
come out, and it was took a lot out of you, you didn't die, so you did a good job.
It was the of anything I've ever accomplished in my life, writing that book. So for those that don't haven't heard the story, last year I wrote a book for my kids that outlined all of the life lessons I'd like to teach them, right? And it was 365 lessons, one page per lesson. So it was a 365 page book. So you can see like how if you miss a couple weeks, you can get really far behind really fast if you're trying for 365. So you really had to stay on top of it. But yeah, it was incredible. And it's like it's going to stay in our family, forever. We're still reading the book together as a family. So it's really cool. So these things, I've found a lot of benefit from this process, right? This getting outside of your comfort zone and committing yourself to not like five things a year, but like one really good thing a year that you can look back and you can look at a decade and be like, all right, 2010, 2011, 2012. And if you all string together 10 things that you did in that decade, man, you're gonna look back and just be like, that's freaking really cool. I'm really proud of
Yeah.
myself for doing that.
I will say to you as a coach, I think and I heard this weekend, another time I heard it this weekend when they were saying, what I love about some of the things that you do, I think when I look at what you've done, like that book for me just symbolizes a lot of stuff about who you are. Like as a dad, the importance you place on being a dad and in like the effort that you put into that. And what I heard this weekend was in the past, I've heard, look, in order to be a coach or a trainer or, just get your stuff out there, you just have to be one step ahead of your client, one step ahead of people. So that was just trying to encourage people to maybe write something or have a book or teach or, have a product. These guys were talking about optimizing your life. Obviously, it's about testosterone too. So, but it wasn't just about, hey, get on testosterone, everything's going to be great. It was about having the best body, meditating, waking up early, getting work done, being a leader, being a man, you right? Um, and I think either they were like, you have to be 10x above your client. I think when I think of what you're doing, and the things that you do, it's always like a 10x. Like no one, it's not like, hey, our coach Vince runs 5Ks and he gets, a lot of money for charity, right? Which is great. If you do that, don't get me wrong, I don't run 5Ks, but I'm just saying this was 32K through the woods. It's like, wow, my coach is
50,
badass, right?
50K. Let's
50K, 32 miles. Yes, I
32 miles.
apologize. Yes, 32 miles. Um, and I think, something like the book, it wasn't like, as much as I'm sure everybody's like, oh, so what, Vince has 11, 12 books out. This book to me is like up here as opposed to, right, the other ones. And I'm not trying to put the other ones down, right? I just know what it takes. And I know, like, for me, that mentality, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world, what you did. So I think having those things and thinking about those things, and it was a reminder, like, yeah, we need to be, I want my clients to look at me and say, holy cow, you're 57. I can't believe you look amazing, or whatever. Or you're doing this, that's amazing. Or you're going there, you're playing hockey again. Holy cow. I can't even, walk up the street, whatever. I think that's where you want to be ahead of those guys. I think that's just you've done a great a great job kind of staying 10x out in front of
Well,
some of your people.
I think it's too, I think one of the biggest things that I've gotten, it's so true. Tim Ferriss, who I know you follow, and like someone asked him the question of if he could put on a billboard one piece of success advice, what would it be? And his answer was, you're the sum of the five people that you hang around with most. And so I know you interviewed Joe Hashi for your podcast, and Joe is the head business coach of my company. So I now talk to Joe, every day, multiple times a day. I, spend a lot of time with him when we go to events and stuff like that. He has become like a very, very close friend, and I hang around with him a lot. That relationship has legitimately taken my life to another level. Just one relationship. It's not even a
Hmm.
five. Like it's not even
Yeah.
five for me. It's one. He's had that much of an impact on me. And I think that's why I love the mastermind so much. Like the mastermind is just like it fosters that environment for other people to get around success-minded people. And I think that it's like one of so I don't do that book for my kids, and I don't run that Misogi if Joe Hashi's not in my life. Not happening. Right. And so I think the
Yeah.
fix maybe is like starting to pick your friends better. Right. Who do you need to hang around with more? And who's the person in your neighborhood that is like the guy that maybe keeps to himself, but you see him outside, doing crazy shit all the time. Like go hang out with that guy, a little more. And there's a guy that Hashi met, and Hashi met this guy named Rodolfo on the Manitou Incline. And this guy like runs the Manitou Incline every morning. It's a mile zipper up the mountain straight up. And he does like every morning he does it. Like this guy's like a machine. And like Joe gets energy from that guy. Right. So now that guy's now transferring to me. So it's like even the levels above get trickled down into the other people. And it was a funny story as we were talking. Well, I will tell you this. So there was a 4-hour drive from my house to the Green Monster. My biggest motivator was not to go home and tell my kids I did it. My biggest motivator of finishing and not DNFing was not having to ride home in the car with Hashi for 4 hours
Oh shit.
after you DNF'd.
Yes.
Because there's not a better chop buster than him. And he would just, I'd still be hearing about it to this day. So my motivation was like, oh, I can't DNF. And it's funny, a lot of people DNF. Like there's people that don't finish it, right? And there's cutoff. It's like time trials. So there's cutoffs. Like they'll pull you off the trail. And I finished way ahead. Even though I didn't finish 2 hours behind Joe, I still finished way ahead of the cutoff time. And I will say this, it's like sometimes you kind of hold back a little bit because you're of uncertainty and not knowing. I don't want to go so hard in the first 10 miles and like crap out. So I kind of went a little careful, and then I realized like I got to like mile 27. I was like, all right, I got this. And I started really moving. I started moving
Yeah.
on that. But they had skeletons of like fake skeletons. And they showed them like people, dead people, and they said, don't DNF on the skeletons. And they
Nice.
had these skeletons along the trails. Right. So I'm
That,
like,
that's
you're
awesome.
driving by like, oh shit.
I love that you said that, the way you put that, because we have heard that saying, that you're the five people, but it could be that one person. I also think, um, going back to the midlife crisis accusations, um, I went to this conference and I haven't been to something in a bit. I
It
was at
wasn't an accusation, it was really just a question.
There you go. That was more, I don't know, you were leaning towards, you were telling me I was going through one. But anyway, no, but one of the things, Vince, I think is important because people are gonna be like, well, I don't have that guy in my neighborhood or whatever. And me going to this thing had nothing to do with, even as much as, I love Ali and it was great, some of the people that I've met, these are people that are, want to be high achievers or are high achievers. And, listening to some of these lectures and, talking about, so since I've been home, I mean, I've done this like headspace meditation challenge. I've done this other thing. I've been waking up every morning. I'm starting to use my planner again. I kind of got away from it, little things like that are going to, move the needle for me, to get back and re energize what I was doing from before. And so I think it's a good segue into something that you're doing because we always talk about your masterminds. And you have one because I do want to talk a little bit about Black Friday because we are, we're coming up on it, and the end of the year. So, but you're doing something in March that is going to be kind of off the hook. And I think this is what I want to put a post out there about live events. And there is really, really nothing like them. The people that you meet and being conscious. Jay Ferruggia, for example, is one of the speakers, and he's like, if you don't leave here with 10 new phone numbers in your phone or 10 new follows on Instagram, then with other people, follow back, then you're doing this wrong. You got to get out there, you got to meet people, you got to initiate it. So I just love like what you got coming up. You always have some really cool ideas with your masterminds. Talk to us about the gym business mania.
Oh, this is going to be amazing. So we run mastermind events 3 times a year. So I've been doing this for a while now. Obviously, I had a little hiatus during COVID, and it in the beginning it was content, and we were just providing valuable content, and we still do that. But now it's just like they're not going to get excited. Like we've had guys in the mastermind since it started. That's like 6 years now. So it's like for them to fly from California to Orlando to kind of hear the same type of stuff, sit in the same seminar seat and stuff. So we're taking our events to the next level and making them experiences. Now, we will never get away from value. We will never get away from really good content. We will never get away from good speakers and stuff like that. So it's not changing that, but it's making it, I don't know, like more fun. Right? More fun and wanting to come to these things and get excited about them. All right. And so I went through this binge of watching one wrestling documentary every night. The kids would go to
Yeah.
bed and I would watch a wrestling documentary, which I love. Like wrestling is, for me, it's very nostalgia. Like when I watch anything related to wrestling, it brings me right back to when I was 10 years old, Saturday morning, Hulk Hogan, Macho King, like that kind of thing. And there's this unbelievable feeling that comes over me when I get into wrestling. And so I'm watching this documentary, and one of the ones was about WrestleMania. And it was the story of the first WrestleMania. And so here's kind of the story. So there was a guy named Captain Lou Albano who was part of the wrestling world, right? And
Oh my God.
he was on a flight and he sat next to Cyndi Lauper. Now, I know you know who Cyndi Lauper is because you're 57 years old, right? So I know you know that, right? Um, so Cyndi Lauper and Captain Lou Albano hit it off. Now, Cyndi Lauper was a mainstream pop star at the time, and for our younger listeners, um, they there was this thing called MTV back in the day.
That
And
had
then
real music on it.
and then MTV actually had music videos, but it was like all the rage. Like MTV was massive,
It was the man. It was the
and it
best
was
thing.
very, very mainstream. And wrestling at the time was not. Wrestling was on the old, it wasn't on like main channels. It was kind of like poo-pooed. It wasn't a real thing. And what Vince McMahon says is, I want to blow wrestling up and I want to make wrestling mainstream and I want to take this whole thing to another level and make it worldwide, right? And so he had this idea of creating this massive event at Madison Square Garden. He connected with MTV. He connected with Cyndi Lauper. Mr. T was Hulk Hogan's training partner, or tag team partner in the main event. Muhammad Ali was the guest referee. Billy Martin was involved. Do you know who Billy Martin is? You
Oh,
know Billy Martin,
the
right?
Yankees manager,
So
of course, you
Billy
kidding.
Martin was there. I
Oh
think
my
Billy
God.
Martin was like the ring guy or something. Liberace was there, right? And it's just like it was this spectacle, this star. So and they what they did is he connected mainstream celebrity with an underground thing like wrestling, and it exploded. It absolutely exploded. And then they had WrestleMania every year. Um, Vince McMahon turned it into $1 billion thing. He just sold it to the same company that owns the UFC for billions of dollars. This was a small little. So Vince McMahon bought his company from his father for $1 million and
Oh,
sold it for like 6 billion. I don't quote me on the 6 billion. It could be four.
yeah,
I don't remember
yeah,
what the exact number
yeah.
is. It was in the B's. Um, but there, and I'm thinking like, God, there's so much to learn here. Like there is so much for a business owner to watch that documentary and to see all the things that he did and to see the things that were done over the next 40 years in the wrestling business. There is so much that can be pulled from it. And so I was like, I want to make an event like this for gym owners. And we're going to take a lot of the foundational things that wrestling did to go from $1 million business to $1 billion business. And we're going to take some of the things and have some fun at the same time.
Very cool.
I have hired former WWE champion and U.S. Olympian wrestler Kurt Angle to be our headline speaker. So I will be interviewing Kurt on a fireside chat. We'll be bringing him in. He'll be signing autographs, doing all that. Um, and we will be having lots of shenanigans going on. We will be having a WWE costume party, which will be very cool. So all the gym owners will dress up as their favorite WWE superstar. Um, and obviously at the same time, we're going to do a ton of stuff to help gym owners make more money and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, we're going to do it in a way that's going to be fun and exciting and cool. And probably some things I'll do will get myself in trouble. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but
Very cool.
yeah, so it's going to
It's
be amazing.
gonna that's gonna be March 7th to 9th, you said,
Yeah. Yeah.
in Orlando?
In Orlando. We don't have a
Very
link
cool.
yet for it, but
Yeah,
if anyone's listening to this,
yeah,
have them shoot me an email, vince@gabrielfitness.com, and
yeah.
we can get you a ticket.
Absolutely. So think this funny story connection is growing up in my, late teens into my 20s college. A good friend of mine is Carl Albano. His uncle is Captain Lou.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah,
cool.
so I got a million stories because, by the way, the whole family is into education. Like anybody from like Mount Vernon, New York, or Yonkers, or the Westchester Bronx area, because they're from the Bronx, they know the Albano name from they were all like superintendents, like all these like very like like high education like principals, and like not just teachers. They were teachers at one point, but they were all into higher education, and Captain Lou, man, he was a absolute maniac growing up anyway,
Yeah,
so it's perfect. But
that
yeah,
is
man,
so funny.
so funny. Um, so I think we mentioned about seven names that most listeners have like, what are these guys? Who are these people? But
Well, here's the
um,
thing. There are some people that are hearing this that are just smiling ear to ear right
yes,
now because they're connecting back with their childhood. They're connected, but the nostalgia is like a really powerful thing. Like it is like when I'll be honest, like when I was a big growing up a Mets fan, right? And when I think about like the '86 Mets, like I was actually we ended up having to sell my parents' house, so I was cleaning out the house, and I found like a book about the '86 Mets. And like I took it, I was like, "Oh man, this is awesome! I'm taking this home and I'm gonna read it." And I got so excited because like it brought me back to my childhood, right? And so, we're connecting you back to things that you did. And even if you don't like it now, like if at some point you did like it, it probably is exciting. And then so I'm
yeah.
connecting two things I love most in the world, helping gym owners make more money in wrestling.
Very cool. This is going to be awesome. We'll make sure everybody we keep everybody posted that on the regular episodes as well. Vince, it is Black Friday coming up, so I do want to kind of just mention about this. I mean, this is a time when gym owners in the past have scrambled. Hopefully, anybody who listens to this show last year was a little more prepared because you'd done something in October, I think, last year talking about Black Friday and some of the New Year's stuff. So talk about you do the 50 strong challenge
Yeah.
every year. So talk to us about what you do really
Yeah,
for this time.
I do want to set the record straight. I think there's a lot of gym owners, consultant guys like me that they're trying to like kind of make their mark by, being different and standing out. And you're gonna see them say things like 6 week challenges are dead, right? And I think it's kind of silly to be honest. Like a 6 week challenge is an offer, right? They're not dead. Like maybe the way it was done a certain way is dead, right? But there's still a very viable thing to do to get new customers. I mean, we just ran one at our gym a month ago, our Fall at the Fitness Challenge, where we run it every fall. And we got a bunch of new members to do it. We got a bunch of signups from it. It was a great, successful event. Our clients liked it, the people liked it. And so I think that like people got to be careful with like seeing, oh, this is dead or that's dead. And like usually it's someone kind of peddling their own thing. Like, this is dead, so do this, right? So I think they're very viable. And someone that still owns a gym, I'm seeing it firsthand that they do still work, right? And I also think what they do is they provide one thing that will never go away, Anthony, as much as people want to say it, one thing that will never go away is urgency. And there's power in a start date, and there's power in an end date. A lot of times people struggle with the evergreen stuff because there's no real reason. That's what Kennedy, if you look at some of the Kennedy rules for direct response, it's a reason to respond now. Well, a date that starts is a reason to respond now. And that is very powerful in marketing. And so when you're having something like that, and the other thing is too, a lot of people want and need this. They want and need the jump start. They need, well, look at you, right? You've been in the fitness industry for a really long time, right? But it sounds like you've let some habits slip and you went to this seminar, Ali's Silverback, is a Silverback one,
Silverback, yeah.
right? And what did you get? You got a reset. You needed to go to that event to get a reset. And you're in better shape than most adults, right? But you still needed that. And you still
Mhm.
benefited of that. And you went to that thing and you came home and you started doing the headspace and you're starting to do the wake ups and you're starting to wake up at 5 a.m., right? If you didn't go to that seminar, you probably wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
And so I think what these challenges do is they provide an opportunity where someone sitting at home can't get their ass off the couch. Maybe it's like they say, all right, 6 weeks, I can do that. And yes, is the goal to keep them forever? Absolutely. Can you make someone healthy for their whole life in 6 weeks? No. But you can't do it if you don't get them started. So they're a viable thing. And here's the other thing too. I think people struggle in marketing because they reinvent the wheel all the time and they're always trying to find new stuff and they got to do this and they're this squirrel thing that they just throwing shit against the wall. Going back and using the wrestling example, they had WrestleMania every year, didn't skip it. They had Royal Rumble every year, didn't skip it. They had, just dating myself, Survivor Series. I don't think they have Survivor Series anymore, right? But they have these events, these pillar events. And so having these pillar events in your marketing are a really powerful thing to do because it takes a lot of energy when you go in your car and you start getting started, right? And you're accelerating, it takes a lot of gas to get started. But when you get on the highway and you get it at 60, it doesn't take as much gas to keep it going at 60. And so the way to burn yourself out is to start all the time. And what having these types of challenges, what you can do is you can build them into an asset. And that is what I like to teach my guys to do is to build marketing assets, to not do marketing, but to build assets that can be used and reused. And so we run every winter, we run a thing called 50 Strong. And you know that we talked about this from when I did 75 Hard. And I was doing 75 Hard, and I was like, man, this is really good. I really think our members should do something like this. But I was pretty sure that if I brought 75 Hard as is to my members, that they probably wouldn't do well with it. And so I created 50 Strong. And it's obviously a dumbed down version, right? But it's better than nothing, right? And then we turned it into a challenge where, and we ran it at GFP. So we turned it into a challenge and it crushed, absolutely crushed. I believe we got 36 members to sign up for the challenge, and we signed up 29 afterwards, the full-time membership, which is crazy.
Wow.
So 29 memberships at $400 a pop, do the math on it. All recurring revenue. So it was a huge success. So then what I did is I was like, all right, when I do stuff that's good, I have this cool platform of like, all right, I have this group of 140 gyms now, and I packaged it all up and said, here, try this. And a lot of them tried it and they're like, oh shit, that was good. And so they had success with. And so what I did was I took something that I created once, packaged it, made it an asset, and not only use it at my own gym every year, but now those guys can use it every year. So you'll see them running it as well every January to be able to get it going. And that's the power of building assets. So all the emails that I wrote to promote it, I'm using those same emails. The ad,
Unused capacity.
yeah, it goes back to the very first part of the call, right? The ads that we used. All right, call my ad guy. Hey, run the 50 Strong ad. It's all there. It's already there,
Yeah.
right? And so there's a lot less energy that goes into these things once they're already created once. And man, the 50 Strong was shoot one of the most successful things we've ever created. And to the point where we at agency use that offer all the time now, all the time.
Vince, I want to remind everybody too, what you're saying is look, Vince has talked about this many times before, and we've talked about the Jerry Seinfeld analogy where he was talking about he would write a joke and he would try it out, and if it worked, he would keep it in. And somebody was like, well, how long do you keep it in? He's like, it's there. I'm not throwing it out. It works. It's gonna stay in there
Good
until
point.
people aren't laughing anymore, right? And because I heard Sebastian Maniscalco and Pete Corielli talking about it, and they were bringing that up because Pete actually had he's a comedian who does the podcast with Sebastian, and they were talking about this album that Pete was doing where it was something called like the funeral or something he was calling, where he's burying all his old jokes, and Sebastian's like, well, they worked, why are you throwing them out? Like, people laugh, they're still laughing just because you think it's almost like trainers who want to change a program because
Yeah.
not because of the client, but maybe they're bored, right?
Right,
So
right. Well, think
it's
about this. Like, how
working.
many times does Springsteen not play Born in the USA at his concerts? Like he plays it every time. Like he just shows up, he
Exactly.
plays those, and that's what the point is. The point is right born in the USA and do it right the first time, do it well, get it to work, and then you have an asset. You have something you can
Yeah.
build on. Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. Um, all right, Vince, been great catching up here. We went over a lot of different stuff, man. It's been awesome. What do you got for people though? You always have something.
Always have something. So, we are releasing this around Black Friday, and I just talked about that 50 strong. So our Black Friday offer is that entire 50 strong package. So they can get access to the emails that I wrote, the ads, how to structure it. We actually have workbooks and stuff like that that the clients get that we'll give you. So anything you need to run that challenge in your gym in January, if you buy it in, late November, Black Friday, you'll have the month of December to get ready, and then you can launch it in January, and you'll have everything you already need and plenty of time to do it. That's why I like doing 50 strong for January for Black Friday because it gets people ready to go. But so the investment is $100. It's a small investment, but it's just like if you paid $100 and it works for the first time, one, you'll make your money back, times a lot. But then next year you can run it again. So for $100, you're able to get an income producing asset that you can use every year at your business. So
More than that, because you're going to have a structure that they can do it. You're going to understand how Vince runs some of these things. So there for other marketing events during the year, you'll be like, oh, okay, yeah. Where's my ads? Where's my emails? Where's my structure for this thing that I'm doing? And you can get a template to see how Vince does this. One quick question too, Vince, what I thought was interesting. You don't run 50 strong on like January 1st or 2nd, right? You wait a couple weeks. Am I correct on that or am I wrong?
yeah, because I don't think people are ready. We'll start the marketing for it.
Yeah.
We'll start the marketing for it like around January 5th. And then we'll run the marketing for about 3 weeks. And yeah, and we won't start it until January, like the second or third week in January.
Yeah.
Because you're
Wow.
cutting through the noise of not most people aren't ready to go on January 1st.
Yeah.
They're like figuring they're trying to get through the holidays and then figuring it out. So if you started on January 2nd, they're not going to be ready to go.
Yeah.
And
Good
plus
stuff.
when you start something on January 2nd, you end up marketing through Christmas, which is not a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And so many people have their kids are vacation, there's college, whatever. There's
Yeah.
so much going on around that time. So love it. Okay, we will have links to
Yeah, I'll give the
the
URL. It's the number 50, so 50 strong24.com. So the number
okay,
5, the
perfect.
number 0, strong, the number 2, the number 4.com, 50 strong24.com.
Okay.
And then we'll put that in the show notes. But yeah, this should be take them right to a landing page and they can just get it $100. And I think there's a money back guarantee. If they run it and they totally flops, I'll just give them their money back.
Cool. All
Okay.
right. Well, we'll make sure everybody has that link. If you're driving right now and can't write it down, we'll have that in the show notes. So Vince, thanks again for doing this, and we'll get you back on soon. Like certainly, I want to keep everybody posted about the gym business mania because it's going to be insane.
Yes. Can't wait.